Hello and welcome to a Chessama Chess. E4, played in 1936 by one Nikolai Kosalapov, facing Nezhmetdinov with the black pieces. This was when the since famous Nezhmetdinov was just a young man, not playing in the Soviet championship or anything just yet, just playing in a club championship in the Tatar region where he was from, and he played pawn to e5. And this beautiful, crazy, insane game is the first inkling that we got about the genius of Nezhmetdinov and his completely insane playstyle, just going for the most crazy attacks possible, inspiring later on, of course, his great friend Mikhail Tal, who would use this style to become world champion. And let's just have a look at this amazing game. Knight to f3 with an attack on the pawn by white, and the pawn is defended, nothing crazy happening just yet. Knight c6. We're going to see an opening called the four knights, knight to c3 and knight to f6 with a symmetrical structure. A mainstay in chess for hundreds and hundreds of years, sound opening, and it kind of looks pretty and symmetrical. That is not going to last for so long. Maybe fearing the ferocious attacking spirit of his opponent, Kosalapov played in this position the modest move pawn to d3, which is modest, almost timid, just pretending this pawn once more, but not allowing this bishop to come out. The bishop is now blocked. And with the white pieces, this may not be an advisable strategy, and we can see that Nezhmetdinov immediately says, okay, if you are not going to occupy the center, but instead only play the pawn to d3, well, I will occupy the center, pawn to d5, and establishing the center pawn duo and actually being a little bit ahead now. What is the point, though, of white's play? What's the point? The point is trying to gain a little bit of time by playing pawn takes pawn on d5. This has to be recaptured, not by the queen, of course, because we would lose the queen to this knight, but by the knight. Okay, so for a moment there was the center pawn duo, which is a goal in almost all games of chess, but Kosalapov had this plan to destroy the center pawn duo right away. However, he is left now with only pieces on the third rank, on the way back on his side of the board, whereas Nezhmetdinov is kind of firmly established, two pieces on the fourth rank, pushing forward. And if you were to take anything away, if you were to take one thing away from this magnificent game of chess, it is the advantage of having more space. And we'll see that very clearly in this game. Perhaps not clearly, because you have to sort of navigate a lot of insanity in the best way possible, but you can see it demonstrated nonetheless. Bishop comes out to e2, making ready to castle and being still quite timid on the first 3 ranks, but also saying, I will castle, I will keep everything protected. You are supposed to be an attacking maniac. Come at me, bro. And that is what Nezhmetdinov will do. He plays the bishop out to b4 with a pin on the knight. The knight is attacked now by this knight and the bishop. So before white can castle, this pin will have to be broken. Therefore, bishop to d2. It's still only on these 3 ranks. Everything is of course protected, but when you have the white pieces, should be playing for some kind of advantage. And one of those advantages you really should try to go for at the beginning of the game is space advantage. Maybe there's a little bit of time to do that now. Castles by black does not look like an overly aggressive move, but of course we remember that these attacking players like Tal, like Nezhmetdinov, like Alyechin, or Kasparov, or Morphy even, these attacking maestros, they almost always castled early. Why was that? I've said that many times, because if you want to play like this yourself, and you should try it sometimes, it'll backfire many times, but sometimes it works and it's beautiful and satisfying. One of the mistakes, if you try to play an aggressive game, that I make, and I'm sure you have made, and many people makes, is to say, okay, the king is not an aggressive piece, it's not an aggressive move to castle, so I won't castle my king. I won't lose time like that. But you actually gain time, because after the king is castled, it will now take white maybe 3 more moves to mount an attack against the king. Those are moves that you have gained in your attack. You can say, I'm not going to need to defend my king if you come at it, because it's already defended. You will need a couple of moves, 2 moves, 3 moves before I need to react in many cases. And that is why we see these attacking players castle so often, so early in the game. Now we see something we haven't seen before in the game. Kosalapov plays a piece to the 4th rank. Knight to e4. What is the idea? The idea is this. Let's exchange this bishop for this bishop, hoping for something like bishop takes bishop and knight takes bishop, or perhaps even the other knight, or perhaps the queen coming out and finally moving forward a little bit. And maybe he was very happy to see this next move here, moving back. Nezhmetdinov moved his bishop back. Bishop to e7. So now he's saying, oh, I forced you to move back. I finally have a piece on the 4th rank. Now I can castle. My king is very safe and secure. Everything is very nice, and I can develop some sort of counterplay in the center. Maybe I can play c4 to dislodge the knight, develop my pieces. I should have some time now. And Nezhmetdinov is saying, nah, I don't want you to have time to untangle your pieces. So what I will do is I will immediately start attacking and throw everything I have at the king. And he starts out with pawn to f5, attacking this nice central knight. And the knight does not have a great many squares to go to. cannot move forwards because it's dominated by this bishop here. But Kosalapov plays knight to g3, saying, well, now I have two knights defending the king here, so it's very hard to get to my king now. Many pieces defending, and even attacking prospects. Maybe I can come here and start attacking your king. So we would have to play maybe queen c1, and then maybe this knight could also come in some sort of attack. And by the way, I have a question for you. If you are one of these wonderful people who are inclined to write comments on these videos, which I always enjoy so much when you write the comments, I have a small question for you, if you feel like answering. When you play chess on a physical board, how do you like to orient your knights? So there are many different philosophies, and for the longest time, I, on a recommendation of the Norwegian Grandmaster Jon Ludvig Hammer, would face the knights so that they were always looking at the opponent's king. He said, you have to declare your intent, and saying, we are coming for you. However, these knights are not doing that. They are not coming for this king. It would be these knights saying, we are coming for you. And I even heard the Chess Viking here on YouTube. I visited him in Iceland, and I don't know if the video or the videos we made together has come out yet, but if not, you can look forward to that. He's like an OG YouTube legend, the Chess Viking here on YouTube. He's amazing and he's super nice. He helped me out a bunch. And he said, no, you have to always, from the starting position, if you have your king here, the knights must be looking away from the king and the queen. And I was like, why would you do it like that? And he said, no, you have to understand, this makes perfect sense. Your knights shouldn't be ambitious and strive towards becoming king and queen themselves. They shouldn't look towards the king and queen. They should look away from the king and queen because they are looking out for danger, which I think is a very sound argument, and I like sound arguments. I like sound in general. That's one of the reasons I have this channel. Sound. For some time now, I have been orienting the knights towards the king and queen, though, and one small advantage you get from that is if you remember to keep doing that along the game, you can always see where the different knights come from. So you can see on this knight that it must be the knight that comes from b1 because it's facing this way. Okay, so what did Nezhmetdinov play here? I hope you're okay with these long sort of tangents. What did Nezhmetdinov play? And how are you orienting your knights when you play on a physical board? Nezhmetdinov, they called him no reverse gear Rashid because he was only going forwards. And pawn to g5 is doing just that. And you can actually afford to do this. Perfectly fine move in this position. You could say, well, there are weaknesses towards the king. Wouldn't it be more nice to have the pawn here defending? Well, yes. But with this much space, it's very, very hard to attack the king. You have to get over the wall here first, and that's very, very hard. Look at these pieces, sort of discombobulated a little bit back here on the first three ranks. And this move is threatening a bunch of things. For instance, coming here with an attack on the knight. So prophylactically, Kosalapov played the knight back to e1 and landing on the king's starting square here. So now we can really see the squeeze beginning, and Nezhmetdinov no longer satisfied with having the first 4 ranks from his side of the board. He's saying, okay, I completely control this, and I'm attacking all these squares here on my opponent's side of the board. Now it's time to move into my opponent's territory, into enemy territory. So knight f4, getting dangerously close to the king, and of course this knight is so well protected that it will not really work to capture it with the bishop, because we can see pawn takes or the other pawn capturing, attacking this knight, getting even this pawn mace even further up the board and looking at the king here. So this knight is immune. Kosalapov was, of course, a little disturbed by this, and was also afraid of moves like this pawn coming forward. So he played another timid move. He played pawn to f3, stopping this, he was thinking, and stopping this. These 2 pawn pushes should be very nicely controlled now. If you are a chess video connoisseur and have excellent taste, and I know that you have excellent taste at least because you're watching this video and you having been watching it for 15 minutes or something already, so so you must have excellent taste. And if you are also a connoisseur of other chess videos, you will know the brilliant bin fine gold, not just regular gold, fine gold. And he says never play f3 or never play f6. And why is that? Well, weaknesses towards the king, in particularly diagonals. So bishop c5 check plays itself here, and that is what Nezhmetdinov did. There's only one move that makes any kind of sense, which is king to h1. Can we attack the king? It's time for a maneuver, I think. A maneuver. I have invented a maneuver, he may have said. What is the maneuver that we can do? So he was not Nezhmetdinov, oh dear, brilliant, creative Nezhmetdinov. He was not so much concerned with always adhering to the chess principles. I think if I had this position and you just said, play a move right now, very quickly, no tactics, just play a move, I would play bishop d6, because they always tell us, bishop e6, because they always tell us, develop all your pieces. Probably this is a fine move. It's not doing that much, but it's helping the general effort. Getting the rooks connected soon and getting into the game. Probably a move we want to play at some point anyway. So, develop all your pieces. And then the rooks last, right? But Nezhmetdinov played rook f6, which is, it's not exactly subtle. It's not exactly subtle. What does it do? The idea is to come here with the rook and attack this pawn. But how can we can't just come and capture that pawn, you may ask? It's defended by the king. Well, let's just see what kind of magic Nezhmetdinov comes up with here. Kosalapov in this position, still on the first 3 ranks, finds the best move. The best move is pawn to c3. What is that move about? It looks like it's not doing anything. It's vacating a square. This square on c2. This is about this bishop being really, really strong and taking away the luft from the king here, so that attacks on h2 are extra dangerous because the king can't get out. So of course if we could play this move with white and exchange these two bishops, we wouldn't have all these problems as white. Of course, if we play the bishop here now, it's just being exchanged. So the admittedly rather clever idea behind pawn to c3 is to later play the knight to c2, where it will defend a bishop coming to e3, right? So that is the point. And now bishop to d6. Almost finishing development, and the bishop, what kind of future does this bishop have? It looks like it's very hard to really get it in the attack, because it would like to come to this diagonal here, but there are all these pawns in the way. Look at this pawn. It's defended once by the knight, twice by the bishop, thrice by the queen, and thrice, 4 times. What is that word? Once, twice, thrice, quadrice, I don't know, by the pawn. This is an extremely well protected pawn. But yeah, Rashid has plans for that. There's plans for that. Knight c2, the best move, the idea of coming here with the bishop. And rook h6. Let's go. No reverse gear. So after this move, Kosalapov's very happy. Finally. Bishop goes out, and saying, let's trade off. Let's trade these bishops off, or even maybe you have to go back. That would be great if you have to go back. Or if we can, if you capture here, I can come in with my knight, and I can sort of try to repel the attack. Of course, one of the reasons that Nezhmetdinov is so famous, and one of the reasons that he influenced the magician from Riga, Mikhail Tal, and his playstyle, was that he emphasized initiative, the dynamics of a position, and attack. He emphasized that far and above material, the amount of pieces on the board. He was very happy to just sacrifice pieces if it gave him an attack. So you'll notice this bishop is undefended. No reverse gear. We are not going to defend the bishop. We are going to attack the king. So what are we playing? We are playing pawn to g4. And this is nice. This does a couple of things. It's attacking the pawn here, which is softening it off a little bit for a potential bishop coming to d5 later with an eye on the king. I think something could happen here. And it does another thing that is very powerful, although not very subtle, and we can see it right away, because bishop takes bishop is played, and wow, that is the second time that a piece of white's lands beyond the third rank, and it's even in black's side of the camp. So the knight didn't stay there for long. One move only. It was on the 4th rank. How long can the bishop stay on the 5th rank? Not very long, as it turns out. So what is the attacking idea that's going to actually win the sacrificed piece right back? Something here. Can you see it? Can you see it? It's a queen move. It's not subtle, it's actually really brutal. It's queen h4 with quite obvious threat of coming here with a checkmate. And there's only one way to defend it, and that is for the bishop to run away all the way back home to defend. Like this, material equality is about to be restored, because this pawn is pinned to the king. It cannot defend here. pinned by the queen, but also by the rook. So queen takes knight, and there is no pawn takes queen because we lose the king. Also with this move, we are threatening checkmate. So I have to defend the checkmate. How to do it? Better get some pieces closer to the king. So knight, which comes back here to e1. It defends the checkmate threat. So what a journey this knight has been on. So it's gone knight f3, here, 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 back again. Yeah, out there and back again. But now it's time to attack with the bishop. Bishop to d5. So even though this pawn is still very much protected, I think it's even protected a fifth time by the rook. Did I forget that? I think I maybe even have forgotten that the first time I count. It's very well protected. But let's see what kind of magic we can do with this attack. After this move, we have to speak German a little bit, because white is in what we call Zugzwang. Zugzwang, it means Zug is move and Zwang is force or to be forced. So it's a concept in chess where it means you're forced to move. You can't say, I'm skip my turn. And the problem is that white has to move, but there are no productive moves to make. Because look at the discombobulation, such a magnificent work of white's pieces here. So white has to do something and place pawn to b4. And I mean, that doesn't do anything. You can say, yes, for the third time in this game, I put a piece beyond the third rank. I mean, a small psychological victory maybe, but other than that, it doesn't do anything. Maybe coming here threatening the knight. I'm not even sure what his plan was, but it's very hard to figure out any move for white, really. And now it's time for some fireworks, because this end of this game is like, it's been spectacular so far, but the end of this game is unbelievable. So how do we get to the king? How do we get to the king? Everything seems to be protected. Let's sacrifice the queen. But how? How about knight? Where does the knight go? Where does the knight go? To h5. Wow. Why? The queen, the pawn is no longer pinned, because the knight is blocking the rook. But you can't capture the queen still, because if you do, this was not played, but if you play this, can you find checkmate in 1? The cool point is that knight capturing this pawn on g3 is check from the rook, of course, but you can't block the check with the bishop because it's also check from the knight. So that would be checkmate, meaning that you can't capture the queen. So how do you defend? How do you defend? So only one move. Bishop coming to f2 with an attack on the queen, exploiting the fact that queen takes here is no longer checkmate because it's no longer backed up by the knight. And when the bishop has moved, we also have an escape square for the king in case of there's any discovered attacks. So they say no reverse gear, Rashid. Very, very rarely did he play pieces backwards, but in this case he did play the queen back to f4, so as not to be captured just yet. He he may want to sacrifice the queen, but he wants to do it on his own terms. In this rather desperate situation, with this knight coming here, check, with a winning attack, and this pawn potentially coming here, and with no productive moves to play, Kosalapov played an idea that would have been very cunning had it not been for the brilliant tactical eye of Nezhmetdinov. So he played pawn takes g4 for the fourth time, putting a piece beyond the third rank, and doing a lot of things, attacking this knight, potentially attacking the queen if we move the bishop, making this bishop able to come out, and making room perhaps for the knight to come out. So many positive things you could say about the move. The problem with the move is a queen sacrifice that he had not calculated or seen, or probably not even considered. Would you consider this move in the game? Would you consider queen takes h2 check? In principle, it's one of those moves that you should consider because it's very, very forcing. There's only one move that you need to calculate. There's only one response, because king takes queen is the only legal move. So let's say we are playing this game, we are with the black pieces, and we are calculating, could we do this? Then what is the next thing we would look at? We are still looking at checks first. The most forcing moves are always checks. Is there any other check that we can play? There is one. Just need to move this knight so we can have it, so we can check with this rook. If we move it backwards, that doesn't seem right. If we move it here, the king can come here. There's no more attack. White is actually winning now because black lost their queen. So we have to back up the queen sacrifice with a potential knight sacrifice. But if we are looking for only the forcing moves, we may be able to find knight, so g3, with a check on the king. And now there are two legal moves. Two legal moves. You can capture the knight, which is what happened. We're going to look at that in a moment. And you can go back out of the check. So we look at that first, and here's the most forcing move possible, which is checkmate, which forces the end of the game, which is rook to h1 checkmate, which is, by the way, brilliant looking checkmate. So that was not played. King back here was not played. That checkmate could be seen. So instead, king takes knight. And something's wrong with white's position, huh? The king is leading from the front. I'm not sure that is advisable. And all these pieces are not doing, they're doing nothing at all. Nothing at all. So what's the winning move here? Very importantly, we have the bishop taking away this square, and the rook is of course taking away all these squares here. So actually, in this game, can you find it? While you think, I'll plug my Patreon, which is patreon.com/ASMRchess, where you can go to support the channel, get some benefits like exclusive videos, and be on the ASMRchess Discord, all of that good stuff. We're having a lot of fun in there. And that's the plug, and then comes the move, which is f5, and that is checkmate. That is So thank you very much for watching this video, this little gem, the start of Rashid Nezhmetdinov's wonderful career as an attacking maniac. I hope you had a great, relaxing time, and I very much hope